Chris Eubank Jr. is now being investigated by the British Boxing Board of Control regarding his weight cutting methods. Now, there's two sides to this story, but I definitely feel that the BBBoC is literally out of control, even though they're supposed to be the control. That's because as long as the fighter steps on the scale, if they have not used any PEDs to make weight, what business is it of yours how they make that weight? Now, for whatever reason, they've decided that using a sauna is not allowed. And that, to me, again, is a ridiculous rule. I read that the BBBoC also considers Chris Eubank's weight cut methods to be extreme. I highly disagree with that assessment because use of a sauna and a sauna suit is just something that anybody who has to make a weight division, those are methods that have been used for decades, probably centuries. In fact, when I looked at those little clips of Chris Eubank, trying to, I guess, get attention for himself, posting his weight cut online, I really didn't think, I thought it was sort of lightweight in that he only had a couple of layers of clothes on. I believe he had one of those portable sauna devices that you see on UFC Embedded all the time. But to only have a couple layers of clothing on to do your weight cut, to me is like, that's not extreme at all. So here's what I would do. I would have on cotton long underwear, bottoms and tops, because right next to your skin, you need some type of cotton or cloth to absorb all the sweat. So that's the first layer on top of course, undergarments. Second layer would be the plastic suit. So you want one that's long sleeved with the elasticized cuffs and neck to hold everything in, all the heat in. And then you want the full leggings with the elasticized cuffs, again, to hold all the heat and liquid inside. I've seen some fighters even use like down jackets to generate even more heat. So you want a thick layer on top of your plastics because you want to get your body core temperature up. Now, on top of that, or as final touches, you need to put on a hat, so a beanie type hat, as Americans call it, a toque, as Canadians call it. And then, this is really important now, on your feet, you gotta have those long stockings, long socks, old school ones that basketball players used to use. So you wanna pull those up over the bottom of your pants. It's quite surprising how much heat you can hold in simply by pulling your socks up over your pant legs. And I learned that tip when I was competing in judo in Europe. The European Judo Competition Tour would typically start in February in Paris. And every weekend there was another tournament in a different country. So what I noticed on that tour was all the judoka in Europe wore these really long wool socks, and they pulled them up over the bottom of their judo gi pants till about mid-calf, and then of course just put on their slides. And I thought at first, gosh, that looks kind of corny, but I wondered, well, gee, everyone's doing it, there must be a reason why. And then when I tried it with just plain cotton socks, I realized that just pulling your socks up over your judo gi pants really held in a lot of heat. And this wasn't when we were trying to cut weight. This is when we're at the competition venue. But the thing was, those of you guys who live in Europe know that there's no central heating in some of these big auditoriums where there's athletic competitions. So in February, it's going to be pretty cold in there, and you need to stay warm. In order to get warmed up for your fight, you want to keep all that, your own body heat in. So bottom line is, I don't think that Chris Eubank putting on a couple layers of clothing and sitting in what I assume to be one of those portable saunas, I don't think that's really extreme, number one. I think the reason he decided to post all of that was because we've seen those weight cutting scenes in the UFC Embedded. That gets a lot of play, and you can pretty much count on UFC Embedded including weight cutting in the day before the weigh-ins episode. That's probably episode 5. So before the last big UFC card I can recall, they showed us footage of Diego Lopez in his little portable sauna with his head sticking out, joking around and singing with his teammates. They also showed us Michael Chandler all bundled up, lying down, getting wrapped up, I guess, with those sort of reflective silver they're not blankets. I don't know what you call them. They give them to runners at the end of long runs, like marathons and half marathons, to retain their body heat, and then also tons of towels and whatnot on top. In my opinion, I do not know why the BBB of C has decided that saunas are against the rules for weight cutting. This is just something that athletes have been doing forever, as I said. And so, for example, before we did, say, that water loading method of weight cutting, which I actually prefer, everyone just sat in a sauna. Or, worst case scenario, we would sit in the sauna. That's where you'd see all your friends before a big judo competition. All of us would be lined up like peas in a pod on 2 rows in the sauna, shoulder to shoulder. Everyone's got their credit card or room card to scrape the sweat off them. And of course, everyone's just in there pretty quiet because we're all just focused on trying to get those last few pounds off. And of course, the conversation is, hey, how much you got? Like 3, 8, whatever it is, meaning how many pounds you got to lose in here. If there's no access to a sauna, then you got to do the other thing, which is to bundle up, like I just described, and then go try to run in the sun to sweat it off. I feel like the BBBoC already got their pound of flesh from Chris Eubank because they fined him 100,000 pounds for, in quotations, missing weight by 0.05 of a pound. So for those of you who are not really into numbers, 0.05 means 5/100ths of a pound, which is approximately an amount that you could, under normal circumstances, just go to the bathroom and lose. Now, granted, Chris Eubank may have been in a position where he wasn't able to do that, but my point being that 0.05 of a pound is an amount that you could lose in one go, whether it's just maybe 5-10 minutes of jumping rope with some plastics on, or even just sitting in a hot bathtub for probably less than 15 minutes, probably 5 or 10 minutes in a hot bathtub. You would definitely lose that 0.05 of a pound. You might even lose more than that. Of course, Chris Eubank Jr. was also fined for smacking Connor Benn in the face with that rotten egg. That's a whole separate ball of wax, but I really feel like, why is the BBBoC so uptight about determining how a fighter cut weight? Like, again, as I said, provided they're not using any PEDs to lose the weight, like they're not using a diuretic, they're not using a laxative, which does have its predictable downsides. But I if you're not using some sort type of foreign substance to help you lose weight, and then last but not least, as long as you're not with taking blood out of your body right before you step on the scale, the plans of re-injecting your own blood back into you, then however you decide you want to sweat it out or dehydrate yourself, that's your business. I feel like the BBBoC is sending mixed messages, because they're saying, hey, we're going to scrutinize you to 0.05 of a pound. And because you were 5/100ths of a pound over, we are going to punish you. But if you're going to be that stringent about the amount of weight, then why do you get to also say how the fighter loses the weight? That doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like that's oversight by this Board of Control. The British Boxing Board of Control is out of control. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.